I'm a PvP fanatic, and then silence, and I was like, oh no.
Well, the crazy thing is I could see you and hear you the whole time.
Weird.
So it's not your internet, it's my internet because it's still doing it. So if we cut out folks permanently, just know it was an internet issue and nobody's dead. Um, so that would not really age well if somebody like drove into a internet pole or something.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm just gonna give myself a little bit of lack of accountability on that one. If that happens, sorry for throwing that in another universe, right? Like, my bad, friends and
It's like, we're
family.
not manifesting it, I promise. We're
Right.
trying not to.
Right. Well, that's such a hard ideology to understand, and especially as it relates to the law of attraction, which we talked about a lot last week's episode. And somebody who overthinks and has anxiety about everything. Every time I think about a situation, I think about a million different ways that situation could go wrong. And when you think about the laws of attraction, that scares the shit out of you. Because, like, oh, fuck, now that's possible. Oh, fuck, now that's possible.
It's like, I don't want to manifest my intrusive thoughts. No, thank you. I have
No,
enough of it in my own head.
exactly. The plane will land just fine. God damn it. Yeah. So I guess we're having some beefy internet issues today, but that's one of
Such
the
is the way.
obstacles that you run into in this sort of format. So I'm having a good time, and I think that we're progressing really well through kind of some of the main topics I wanted to hit on anyway. So even if the internet does crap out, we're definitely gonna have to find time to at least finish this conversation. Like we
Yeah,
talked
for
about
sure.
earlier, maybe I can just record it and put it on YouTube. But um, so to get back to it, for as long as this will stay, this bridge will stay open. Yeah, we were talking about kind of overcoming imposter syndrome when it comes to content creation and some of the specific forms of imposter syndrome that we've had.
Hmm.
And when it comes to PvP stuff, I had that imposter syndrome version of everybody else is doing this and you're not that good at this when I was streaming Guild Wars 2 content. But I also really gained a following there because I took a lot of the, I guess, like we talked about earlier, the focus on giving folks grace and understanding that we have in our mutual friends group
Hmm.
to kind of everywhere with me because I like the way it makes me feel when I live my life that way, and it just so happens to be pretty infectious, which is honestly I think a pretty cool combo. And I saw a lot of that happen in the Guild Wars 2 PvP community where like I'm fighting somebody and they beat the shit out of me because I'm not that great at that game. And I'd pop in chat real quick, normally people like get all flame me or talk shit and I'd be like, dude, good fight, or nice kill, or oh, you sneaky bastard, or just, razz them, or whatever the case may be. And folks like really took well to that. They're like, haha, thanks. And like there were even some big other content creators that were like kind of dicks to everybody else and grumpy all the time and mad about everything, that when they walked over me or killed me because they're content creators and often pros at the game,
Yeah.
I took it with for what it was, an opportunity to improve, and didn't take it personally that somebody was better at this fucking video game than I was, and moved on with my life. And sometimes said something funny in chat, sometimes gave them a compliment, whatever the case may be, just because it felt good to do that. And then I made friends with people who didn't make friends with a lot of other folks, and then it kind of those folks hosted the stream, and then everyone's like, oh, here's that guy who's always saying nice shit in Battlegrounds, because not enough people play that game to where you can play a match, especially late at night, and run into different people every match. It's
Hmm.
often the same fucking people and over again. It's like, oh, hey, this guy that's always saying nice things to me, he streams on Twitch, and then people just stuck around. So like it really lends well to the imposter syndrome of, hey, uh not everybody, or everybody's doing this and everybody does it better than you, when you offer something that not a lot of other people are offering. And it just so happens that the thing that I was offering was something that I try to do anyway, so it wasn't any extra arrows from my quiver to create that content. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just sort of the game of like, yeah, other people are doing this thing, or like even the world of like fan art or content
Good
creation
good
or
example. Yeah.
like personal art or whatever like that. It's like, yeah, other people might be like so much better at me than this thing, but nobody does this thing like I do.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I'm just going to keep doing this thing in the way that I do. Like the second that I put out that I was like, oh yeah, I'm thinking of maybe doing commissions, everyone was like, yes. I had like 30 people who were like 100%. And I was absolutely floored that I was like, what? These people want to pay me real human money
To do
to
your
do this
thing.
thing.
Yeah.
Thank you. That like I like just casually do in my like free time and that I enjoy doing. But it's like there's a lot of like quote unquote better artists out there. But it's like I make art and I make content like me. And
Hmm.
that's why it's different. And that's why it's like that's why people care because it's the way I do it. And
Right.
that's astounding to see like in an external validation standpoint, but doubly so to like get from yourself of like, oh yeah, people like this because I do this in like a way
Right.
that's the way I do it. That's cool and that's weird.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, it's a that's always a tough one for me to swallow as well. Like, wow, people enjoy this, and because it's the same thing, but from my brain, what? Well, and for coming from the perspective of somebody who's not as artistic as it relates to like physical art, like drawing or um I don't know what do you call like graphic design? Boom,
Hmm.
nailed it. Is that still like drawing on the computer? Is that still technically graphic design?
I think so. I think graphic design is more like
Logos
specific,
and shit,
like
right?
layouts and shit, but like it counts art and digital art and
Ah, digital
graphic
art. That's a
design
good
and
one.
a million
Okay.
other things.
So I'm not good at that. So I 100% am one of the people who's going to pay other people to do things. And what's really cool for me, especially this huge wave of everybody making art in an art filled world, is I'm seeing so many of my friends who meet needs that I would have already had as a streamer, especially as it relates to artists, right? Like, hey, I need art. And instead of having to search the internet and worry about PayPal scammers and find somebody to pay to do these things, we get to pay our friends to do it. And like, even if it's not the style that like I would be initially looking for,
Hmm.
it would be a benefit. A, that I knew the person I was working with already, and B, I guess there's three, but B, that I got to support my friend. And C, I get to think about my friend and specifically that interaction every time I see or use said art.
Yeah.
So it's pretty neat that so many folks are creating things because I'm seeing so many folks who are now avenues to work with. So it's pretty, I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it very much is. And like I don't know why it was such a foreign concept to me, like when people were like, "Yeah, I want to pay you," because I've paid people to make me like I've done this. I've been a commissioner.
Oh,
Like
there you go.
I've like it just became immediately foreign when people are like, "Wait, why do you want to pay me?" But I've paid my friends to, and it's just like this weird like feedback loop. But
Yeah,
it's just that certain level of like, "Oh yeah, no, I'm gonna 100% like support these people, and I get a cool thing out of it." So like, why not? This there
right,
is no lose lose here.
right, right. As a quick aside, little spiderweb here. Don't you think it's funny how a weapon often used against our generation is that we're entitled and think that we deserve everything? But in actuality, we're all riddled with imposter syndrome and don't think we're good enough for anything that we have.
Yeah, we all hate ourselves. We are not entitled to anything.
Isn't it
What are you
crazy
talking
that
about?
we get the double down of, hey, like, not only are you completely wrong about this shitty thing that you're assigning to our generation, but also the opposite is true. That blows my mind.
It's like I can't send my food back at a restaurant unless I
Mm-mm.
physically cannot eat it.
Right,
Like I'm not entitled to it. It was like, no, this has meat and it'll make me feel very ill if I eat it.
right,
Versus like, nope, this is slightly off to the left, so therefore it's like, no, I don't do that.
nope.
I try to be unapologetically kind. Like my favorite quote that like I'm probably gonna
Well
get on
worded.
my body at some point.
Do
Um,
it. I love
is from
tattoos.
a D&D podcast, The
Okay.
Adventure Zone, is just do good recklessly. Like
Oh,
I just
I
want to
love that.
do good with like reckless abandon and put positivity out in the world. So no, I'm not entitled to anything. I just want to make stuff better.
That's really awesome. I really like the way that that's worded, and I could see that being a really bitchin' tattoo in a special font, right? Especially like with images and shit. Well, and you're an
Yeah.
artist. I can't wait to see. Please tell me when you get that tattoo. I would love to see that.
I had somebody ask me if I could draw them a tattoo, and I was like, no, I'm
Oh,
not
is it
putting it
because it's
on a
permanent?
physical human body. That's terrifying.
Well,
And they're like,
but
you're good, it's fine. And I'm like, but ah,
okay. So, question: doesn't that like take all of the power out of them, their choice, though? Like,
I'm
I'm not saying, I'm not holding you hostage to their wants and wishes, right? But isn't it ultimately their decision to determine whether or not your art is good enough? So, oh, okay. So, is it the fear of them saying that this isn't good enough to be put on my body? Can I ask you the deep questions?
I think it's more of like it's the same way with sewing to a certain degree, but that's
Okay.
much less permanent. That it's like this is a thing I'm gonna see all the time, and if I hate it, I have to see it on your flesh always.
Oh, that's fair.
And but like this is also someone who's like, no, I've gotten like is a like total punk friend of mine, and who's like, I got shitty $10 tattoos in a basement. Yours is gonna be
Right.
better than half of them, and I was like, I mean, all right.
And so, how much of you seeing something and hating it, like, is that something you'll even really be able to escape? Because correct me if I'm wrong, but and I get this too. But
Hmm.
don't a lot of artists feel the beast of I hate this thing. It's never going to be good enough. It could always be better. Every time I look at it, I look at it and notice things that I could have done better when I was doing it. Like, is that probably part of it as well? You think?
I think so. Yeah, there's definitely like this mantra I always go to of like finished not perfect,
Yeah.
where it's like if I keep thinking it's like, oh, I have to make this the best thing I need to make it, I'm not going to finish it. Like I won't. It's like this it'll always be an unending project.
Right.
And so like I've taken in recent years a lot more of a shift of like that was the best I could do at the time, or that was the best I could do with like the things that I had or the skills that I had at that point.
Because you don't
Uh,
know what you don't know.
yeah, or it's like if I try some random new shit, I'm not gonna have any clue. Like I tried, not even tried, I did. It turned out actually surprisingly well. Like a full Alphonse Mucha style painting of one of my friend's D&D characters, or like a digital painting,
Okay.
and like I was terrified to do anything like that because I don't know if you or other people know about Alphonse Mucha. Does those like very intense, like full detail floral,
Can you send me a
like
link
Art
or
Nouveau
something?
style stuff.
We can show it
That's
on
not
stream.
A, my style,
Am
and
I?
B is like a lot of work.
Can
And I
you?
did it.
I was muted. Sorry. Can you send me a link, or can you spell it for me so we can show it to everybody what you're talking about?
Yeah, it's Mucha, I believe.
Mucha. Mucha.
uh Mucha or Mucha, and all of his work is just like I'm sure you've seen it. It's out there in the world.
What else do I put in Google to get what you're looking at?
Actually, if you just search Mucha or Mucha, it'll
This-
probably just come up. It's
That's
also Alphonse.
that's like the whole. Oh, I see what you mean. Okay, that helps a lot. Let's do images here. Can you see the stream?
Yeah,
Is this what you're talking about?
it'll take a
Oh,
second to
there's
roll
just
over.
tits right in the middle of the screen. Love tits. Monkus TOS. Do I have Google
Yeah.
Safe Search on? I do have Google Safe Search on.
Well, it's also artistic boobs, so
That's
you know.
fair. Well, I mean, and
But
people.
yeah, that style of artwork,
Okay.
and it's not my style typically.
Okay.
And I had a friend who was like I think I did an offhanded doodle of it, and she's like, "No, I will pay you to do this for my D&D character because I love them so fucking much. Please draw them as this." And I did, and it turned out actually really fucking cool. And like,
Do you have, can you show me? Do you have it?
yeah, I might be able to share my screen in Discord. Let
Yeah,
me see.
I think it will pop up. I have your screen cropped like crazy, so it will probably show up little
In my little
in your
box.
little head box. While you're doing that, I can take the time to recrop it so that we can get your full face in there. Holy shit, that's fucking cool.
Thank you.
Good God, you're talented.
Thank you. This is my friend's D&D character, Lilium. And it was just an idle thing because she's a warlock of the Raven Queen. And like
Fucking
I did a
Christ.
sketch of it, God, forever ago. It was at my old job, so maybe 2018 or so, maybe was like the very loose sketch. And then I went, fuck it, I'm gonna do it. And it was like one of my most like beloved pieces. Like it's put in so much work. It was 100% digital besides like a loose outline sketch. Um and so there's of course I'll look and there are things I want to change, but it's also like I did that, I made this, I put it out in the world, and holy shit, I
It blows
like
my mind. Well, and you know, as much as you talk shit to yourself, I assume, but correct me if I'm wrong, just based on
yeah,
what we've already talked about.
as
Uh,
artists do, as everyone does.
exactly as artists do, as much as you talk shit about yourself, there's gonna be folks out there, myself included, who who can't do this,
Yeah,
and regardless of what my expertise is in the realm of art, subjectively, I think that that's fucking amazing.
thank
And
you.
if you say, well, it's not up to other standards, I'll say, well, why is my opinion not good enough? I know, obviously, you're not going to do that because you're awesome. But, like, to combat the imposter syndrome, because I don't know if you get this, but I get this too, where someone's like, hey, Bo, I really love your talk show. I was like, thanks, but you don't watch a lot of talk shows, so your opinion doesn't mean shit to me. And that's what shows up in my head. That's my bitchy brain. And then I have to reel it back and be like, hey, why don't you appreciate your friend saying nice things about you, you bitch?
Yeah, I've had to become so much better at taking compliments. Because I very much used to be the type of person where someone's like, "You did a good thing," or "You did whatever," and I'm like, "It's fine." And then I've had people be like, "Fucking stop," and I'm
Yeah.
like,
Oh.
"Okay."
Yeah, they're like, accept the compliment, motherfucker.
And it's like so it's just reached the point of like, "Thank you," and then it's like, of course, I know the things that I want to do better or whatever, but it's even like just that act of saying thank you when
Ex-
someone says something you do is good,
right.
like lets you internalize it just a little bit more, even if the rest of your brain is like, no, this is terrible. And like, I could do this better and that better and this better. It's just having the little bit of like, no, they liked it and thought it was cool.
Exactly.
I
That's all
also
that
kind of
matters.
like it and thought it
Right.
was cool.
Well, and that kind of lends to what we were talking about earlier in terms of that sort of positivity being really infectious. It's cool that it goes both ways, that not only can that kind of positivity be infectious to the people around us, but when people are being that positive, it can also seep into our lives and help us maintain a little bit of positivity.
Hmm.
Especially when we don't do things as great as we thought we could. Like I just tried to fix the cropping on your camera so we can get your full face in there, and it just I did all these things to fix the cropping on there, and then at the end of the day I had to move the camera up to fit the frame, and it just ends up exactly like it was, and I said, "Fuck it."
It's good enough.
It's good enough. Well, and Kurt said something in chat, and you touched on it a bit earlier that I think is a really beautiful and a poignant thing to highlight, and that is good and done is better than perfect and finished. And
Hmm.
it's a beautiful segue into one of the biggest obstacles that I, not only myself, but I've seen a lot of other people, just so many other people run into, and that is the I want to do this thing. I have all of this desire to express myself in this creative way, but I just need this to get started, or I just need this to get started. I just need this to get started. If only this situation was right. If only I had this thing. If only, I only had this space and I would do the thing.
Hmm.
And then it never gets started, or it does get started and it never gets finished. And I think that, and this is again my opinion, but I think that one of the most important parts about creating, and especially creating now where everybody else is creating, is to actually put it out there, is to actually share it. Now, if you don't want to, I want to make a special place for folks who like to create things and then keep it privately. Like, you're valid too. You don't have to do this thing, but please do if you get the inkling, because I love seeing all of the people that I love, and kind of a deeper perspective into those folks' lives. You get to learn a lot about a person that you wouldn't know otherwise, or like I've learned so much about my friends. So the dice that binds us is a beautiful example. I've learned so much about folks that I knew like a surface level about, that I learned a deeper level about because of the shit that they're creating. And I mean shit because I'm lazy with my words, not that it's actually shit, but like,
Yeah, our garbage content.
yeah,
No, I'm
how
kidding.
dare you, you monsters! But yeah, I think that when folks oh, that's a good cap. I'm gonna save that phrase. I'm just gonna put that in the file cabinet. I love that folks are expressing themselves, even though everybody else is expressing themselves, because I love learning. I love learning more about everything, and one of my favorite things to do is learn more about the people that I care about and appreciate. And you can only learn so much through conversation and so much through shared mutual experience. When a person creates and then shares that art, you're seeing a really like private, intimate part of that person's brain that they probably, big assumption here, but probably don't have a lot of other outlets to express. So it's probably not shared that frequently.
Yeah. And there's very much something to be said of people who create art just for themselves. Like 100%. That is super valid, especially in a world
Mm-hmm.
of like that forced external validation, where it's like, I didn't get enough likes on this, so therefore it must be bad. But there's also a power in kind of like sharing that thing, because there is
Exactly.
stuff where it's like, through either my D&D characters or art about them, like I've been able to explore stuff, and like through some of my other OCs, like I just have like, it's me but a tiefling is like how I do
Okay.
a lot of my journal art and
Okay.
stuff like that.
That's cool.
Um
So it's like
like
a
I
kind
do
of like a that would be the way that you visualize yourself and your like internal self, and
yeah,
it's a way to like to bring that
it's
into the world.
it's the non-binary vibe where I just want to be a little demon person
Hell
and
yeah.
live my life. But it's like I use that as like a journal character by proxy. So I'll like do vent art with them and stuff like that. Or like I did a marker drawing of Lysander with like top surgery scars.
Oh, cool.
And that was this point in time where I was like, no, this is something that like I'm sitting within myself and I really want to happen. But
Okay.
also I'm just gonna put it on this D&D character because they're important to me and it lets me like paint them in this pretty way with this thing that I want to happen. And it's just kind of like having space to kind of put those moments of vulnerability and
Okay.
putting it out there and being like, hey, here's a part of me. But also here's something that might be a part of other people or something that other people need to see
Just like to
themselves
create
in as well.
representation.
Hmm.
So would you say that that sort of expression helps you uh get the perspective of living life the way that you would want to live life, specifically? Like you just said, your character has top surgery scars. So when you portray that on your character, does that give you an internal sense of like, hey, this is what it's like living my life with this attribute or with this thing that I want, I guess, to be?
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
Like with my tiefling, I've kind of like they're an idealized self. I mean, it's me, but like with horns and after top surgery and like more leaning into the aesthetic I want to have because I'm lazy and don't spend money on clothes and stuff like that.
Same.
Where it's like it's just like the idealized self and kind of putting it in a projection in that way where it's like this is easy. And if I want to change this, I can change this at a drop of a hat with
Right.
like
Okay.
no effort. And it kind of lets me do like self exploration as well as just like try new hats on a little bit and
Okay.
like a safe way to do that like exploration and digging in because if I do something where it's like I drew a dream I had at one point that was like a really rough nightmare and I drew it out and I was like, you know what, no, I feel better, like I drew this person like
Oh,
having like a
oh.
really extreme reaction to it and I felt better about it.
Do you think
And so
that
it's
that
just
might have? Do you think that might because? Sorry to interrupt, but I just
yeah.
don't want to lose the question. Do you think that that is because you then created a physical representation of an obstacle so you could see your opponent? I guess figuratively speaking.
Yeah, it
Cool.
definitely like it art for me lets me kind of express those feelings because I've been an artist as long as I can hold something to draw with. Like my
Okay.
parents have crayon drawings of mine from like a little kid and they're like
Nice.
horrifically deformed dogs because I was a toddler. Um
Subjective. Subjective. Maybe you could just see into a universe where dogs look like that.
it's true,
Boom,
quite
boom, boom.
possibly.
Yeah.
I was a future sight person or an alternate reality site.
Yeah.
But no, it lets me kind of like play with it in a space and like put all the emotion out into that sort of piece and like lets me process with it instead of like I'm just gonna sit with this ball of like sad or angry or frustrated in me. It's like, no, I'm gonna draw it out. And I'm gonna draw this character like ugly crying and screaming and stuff. And then it's like now I feel better because
That's cool.
by proxy I did it
Right. Right.
without like getting a noise complaint from all my
Fair.
neighbors.
Or like having the cops knock on your door. Is
Yeah,
everything okay?
it's like I promise I'm not dying. I'm just feel like I am. It's
Just
good.
I'm
We're
just having
good.
a really bad day.
It's like I
Oh,
just had to punch a wall. We're good.
right, right. Well, I have to say that's really awesome that you're offered that validation through that medium. I imagine that it would be really difficult with for a person who's trying to find what fits them in terms of the way that they express themselves and share themselves with the world. Especially some of the changes that you're talking about specifically here, just to highlight, like top surgery, for example. That's not fucking cheap.
No,
It's
God,
it's
no.
fucking, first of all, it's surgery, but second of all, it's like it's expensive. So it's really awesome, and it clearly it creates some frustration that you're not able to express yourself and represent yourself in the world the way that you want to represent yourself in the way that you feel like you would be truest to yourself. But it's awesome that you're at least offered the outlet in some way to express that, even if it's measurably different comparatively, but also like still there, right? And I will say it's pretty awesome to know that as you work to find the way that you want to express yourself to the world, even if that's ever changing, you have methods to be able to like see how that feels. The best metaphor I can think of in World of Warcraft, if somebody has an item and they link it in the chat, you can control click on the item if it's like a gear, and it will show you what it looks like on your character, right? So you can see kind of how it would work with the way that you are. And it's really awesome. That's kind of a weird metaphor, I know, but it's pretty awesome that you have an outlet to be able to kind of see how things feel in terms of your identity. That's really fucking cool.
Yeah, between like art and TTRPGs and D&D specifically, because I've run a lot of TTRPGs, but not played a lot other
Sure.
than D&D.
Sure.
I run months of the week. I play exclusively D&D. It's just
Nice.
how it goes.
Yeah.
Um, as a queer and a trans person especially, it's given me a lot to play with,
Cool.
and like a lot of other people in my world to play with. Like I have the means of like processing out this like all these emotions that I can of course like talk to people about and talk in therapy, but it's different to kind of just sit with myself in it while I'm creating. And in like D&D spaces, I can try out new things. I can try out like early on in D&D, because I've only been playing for like 4
Oh
years
wow, you're
maybe.
still kind of a D&D newbie too, huh?
Yeah, I'm pretty
Cool.
new in the
Cool. You
in the
would never
thing.
know. You'd never know.
Yeah. I was very lucky to have Alex as my first DM. So I've
What? Oh,
yeah.
okay. I have to tell you now. If you ever play a game with not Alex as the DM, and I'm making a bold assumption with assuming that no other DM can do that, but you might be a little disappointed because I played D&D for a long time, and I only know
Mhm.
a couple of DMs that can do what he does.
Yeah, I'm lucky that like the extent of my DMs was Morvi, and Morvi Colin is also pretty solid. He
He's my
DMs in
DM.
a different way. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like he DMs in a little bit different way than like Alex does. But
yeah.
I've also had the fortunate of being able to play with Bruin. Bruin was like
Oh,
my
I like
second
Bruin.
DM
Yeah,
ever.
that's cool.
And he's a fantastic story creator and
Yeah.
story writer. So it's like I've been very fortunate. But like in a game I actually played with Bruin, I like tested out like chosen name that I was maybe considering at some point, and it didn't work out. But I got to be in this space where I was like this gender fluid, like flirty tiefling that like had this ridiculous fucking name, and like it kind of let me play that persona in a space. And I've had other people talk about it in Amcard too, but like D&D especially, it's more of like a safe contained little thing of like I can try out this person I want to be
Right.
a little bit, and if I do like it, and if other people like it feels safer to like kind of actually try it on my real physical
Okay.
self instead of
Okay.
just a character. Like I've done pronoun exploration in
Sure.
D&D. Like my first character used they them pronouns, and that's
Okay.
when I was already out and like
And
had
then
been
like
out
and
for a
then it like
while.
clicked for you. You're like, oh, I really like this. This is
Yeah, and
like I
just
like
like
the way
we're
that this
gonna
feels
do
as my
this,
identity.
and
This is
I'm
my real thing now.
yeah, and it's like I'm gonna let my friends use it a little bit, and it was like, oh, they're all doing relatively well with it. Okay, cool. And it's like I was already out, and it was fine. But it's nice to have it validated in more spaces and be
True.
like, no, like in this fantasy world, I don't have to deal with people being like, what's it, they them? What's that? I don't get it. It's like, no, we just didn't create that in this world, and like we don't have to worry about it. I'm a blue water person. I don't. The gender doesn't matter.
Yeah,
It's
what's
fine.
gender?
Yeah.
We don't know what that means. Yeah, well, and I will say that's pretty. This is an aspect I don't see talked about that often, but it lends well to the topic here in that when a person is trying different ways to express themselves and feel like what fits right for their identity, um, it's really awesome that at least for you specifically in D&D you can do this, because if there's something that you don't like, or there's something that doesn't fit well with your identity that you thought it might at the time, like you just mentioned a second ago, that there's less consequences if you like, if that doesn't work well with you. Like, just to use our example earlier, if a person wants to get like top surgery, like you said,
Hmm.
and then 6 months later they're like, wow, I kind of miss having like the anatomy that I
Yeah.
had there. Like, what do you do about it? I mean, I guess theoretically, if you have, but who has that kind of money and who has that kind of time? You know, so
Well, because
like,
that's like regular plastic surgery
right,
instead of a medical treating plastic surgery. So
right,
it's gonna be more expensive and not
right.
covered by any insurance. It's like,
Exactly. Exactly. So it's pretty awesome that there's the added benefit of what happens when there's something that you want to see if it works well with your identity, and it feels great to express yourself in that way. How do you try it? Like, and if it goes poorly, what do you do? It's really awesome that D&D, specifically for you in this case, but art in other folks' space, gives them the opportunity to do that. And one quick thing I really wanted to hit on before I forget, because I've almost forgotten like 3 times, I think that it's really, really that gives your art a lot more weight,
hmm
at least as far as you expressing yourself is concerned, and not that a person, there's not like there's any qualifying bar for how heavy your art must be to be valid, right? Like, it's just, it gives it an extra layer, like onions and ogres, uh, to its complexity. And to that effect, you specifically in this case, but anybody who does the same thing in terms of using their art to express themselves or kind of explore their identity, when you put that out there for everybody else, that is like a beautiful expression of courage, which is specifically doing something even though it's scary,
yeah,
even though a
like
person might be afraid.
it's one of my favorite things to see an artist choose to be vulnerable and post like um in in art circles it's called like vent art where
Okay.
there's
I
just
was
like
wondering,
I
I was
felt
going to
real
ask earlier.
bad. Yeah, it's like I felt real bad and put all this out and here it is and you're just like, "Oh wow, yeah, I can like see your feelings through this and I can see that you worked through something in this." And it gives it like so much extra like life and meaning to be like, "No, you put a lot of feelings into this and you worked out a lot of feelings through this and I'm proud of you for doing that."
That's really, I had not heard the term before today. And I just Googled it too, Venta art. That's the
Mhm.
first time I've ever heard that. Uh, so I've definitely accomplished one of the big goals I had for this episode, which was walk away with a new perspective and understanding of art. And it's really easy to tell yourself in your brain, well, art is an expression of somebody else's feelings, I guess, to be broad. But it's a lot harder to actually apply the what might this artist be feeling when you actually look at the piece of art, specifically when it applies to vent art. Because I'm not an expert in art analysis, and I definitely just fucked around in all of my art classes in college, so I didn't learn a goddamn thing. So when it comes to like kind of gathering what the art is trying to capture, sometimes I miss it, you know?
Mhm.
But now knowing that, being able to, because I knew that people needing to vent, and I knew that a person expressing the way that they feel being important was a thing, and I knew that folks created art was a thing. I had considered that the two exist in the same space, especially as more famous artists are concerned, and especially specifically ones that have like political agendas. It gives you like the um, insight to think deeper into the art. But I forget or forgot to apply that to everyday art, to my friends' art, to art in passing, like that I see on like TikTok, for example.
Mhm.
And when you think, hey, this is a regular person, let's think about what this art might be feeling. And even deeper, what does this art make me feel? And might that also be what the artist felt? Or what did the artist feel when they made this that I'm not even thinking of right now? Because, like we said, you don't know what you don't know. I think that's a really awesome layer um, of complexity to art that I just didn't really consider before. So thank you.
Yeah. And there's so much power in the catharsis of it too, of
Yeah.
just like you might be feeling some I've been on too much to like teacher TikTok of like big feelings and stuff like that, where you're just like, I have this like huge emotion in myself and I need to get out somewhere, but I can't make words do it in
Oh,
any way,
words
shape, or form.
suck.
So it's like, I'm going to scribble on this thing or like make this character doing this thing or put like a million eyes or like an exposed rib cage. And you're like, now I put it out there and I felt this and I felt good. And also, hey, it's cool art and I'm gonna share it is just kind of like an added layer of like I made something good out of this struggle that I was having. And that
Yes.
there's power there.
That, yeah, for real. For real. And that's such a beautiful expression of the commonly used phrase, I can't think of the 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 cliche I want to use right now, but the essence of it is um to make something out of quote unquote nothing, right? Like,
Mhm.
not that it's a nothing idea, but that before you looked at that canvas on the screen and before you looked at that page, it was blank. And
Yeah.
it took your body moving one way or the other to make that thing, to create that. Like you literally took, and even we know by thermodynamics, which we talked a few episodes ago about, like you took something that was just like, for a pencil example, it was just like this tiny little strip of graphite in this wooden capsule, and now it's like this beautiful thing that makes people like, I it blows my mind how noble it is that somebody looks at something and then feels something,
Mhm.
because that's like the deepest expression that we have as humans, is feelings. That's what makes us uh, so unique, is our perspectives. And the couple weeks from now, that, like I talked about, we're gonna have the episode on perspective, but that's perspective is existence. Like, that's fucking crazy to me. Fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Like, the tree falls in the forest, like nobody would have ever seen that thing, but you created that thing, so now they saw that thing.
And it feels kind of like being magic
Yes,
almost to a
it
certain
is
degree.
magic. It is
Cause
magic.
Yeah, because I have some people be like, "How the fuck do you do that?" I'm like, "I don't know. I just it just happens." And it's like some weird wizard fucketry of like,
Mm-hmm.
I just made took this picture from my brain and I put it on paper or on digital art or whatever, and now it exists. This was I just like projected this image into the
Right.
world,
Right.
and now other people see it. Maybe not like exactly how I saw it because it's hard to make it exactly how it is in your head, but it's like I made this thing and it's out there now. Other people see it the way I see it mostly, and that's nuts.
Fucking dope. Well, and a lot of folks talk about and there's a word for it, but I can't remember. I guess we can Google it, but I don't know the words to Google, which, like we talked about earlier, is really important. A lot of folks talk about how, specifically with common fandoms, how the manifestation of how somebody else has created the thing was not the same as their brain has created it.
Mhm.
Specifically, the example I can think of most recently is a couple of my friends are really concerned with the new Wheel of Time series and making sure that they do that with the way that their mind's eye had that created. That's something that folks consider a lot, and it comes out a lot, specifically for Star Wars fans because they're the worst. But the other side to that, because there's two sides to every coin, which I should do a whole ass episode on, but we'll come back to. The other side to that is that, and you have done this for me specifically with the dice that binds us and the character um, art that you've done.
Mhm.
If I kind of had like this unlock screen character version of what somebody might look like, like a outline with a question mark on it, like
Mhm.
defeat 50 bosses to unlock this skin. I didn't quite know what to think of when I visualized that person in my head. When an artist creates that for you and then gives it to you, it's like, holy shit, this is what I'm going to think about every time I consider this entity. So, like, that's the converse of folks saying, "Oh, it didn't match what I envisioned," but like, you created what I envisioned, and you literally impacted my reality through your creation. Now, every time I think of a thing, I think of something that you created. Tumult
Mhm.
is my specific example. I didn't know how to like visualize tumult, tumult
Yeah.
until I saw your art. So I was like, "Holy shit!" Wow. So that's really fucking beautiful.
Yeah, it's amazing and like on the artist side of things, like when I first drew our character art, I had these like kind of loose concepts of how they looked, and I had like an amalgamation of a few like reference drawings they sent. And I think to Parto, well, after Lysander, obviously, because I drew my own character first because it's easiest.
You have to.
Yeah, it's like after I drew Lysander, to Partos was the first that I drew, and I sent it to Ian. And he was like, "Holy shit, it's perfect." And it's just like the energy of that of like, I made your thing real. That's
Hmm.
so fucking cool.
Exactly, exactly, and I that's so beautiful. It's so wholesome, you know. Well, and Ian, generally speaking, is already a wholesome human being. I already trust Ian to be, specifically with the way the interactions have gone with his character and the way that he's role played. To be honest, if he's like, "Hey, this is great, but what would it look like if you did this?"
Hmm.
And again, another thing I love about our kind of friends group, but both mutual and otherwise, in that we give ourselves that space. That's really fucking cool. Let's see. I think I had one more big question. I have to pop over to it because then I want to. Oh shit! No, let's do that now. Let's come up with the conclusion, and then let's segue into talking about the dice that binds us, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So, conclusion idea that I've had. Let me make sure I touched on all these points. Yes, we did. Okay. The conclusion that I thought of, and I would love your contribution on kind of refining it, is do what you love and fuck what other people think. But I think the whole last thing that we just talked about was what other people think can sometimes be beautiful. So
Hmm.
not necessarily fuck everybody's perspective, but I definitely think there is something to think of, like fuck the haters. I just don't like the word haters, and not because of any reason. Just I'm tired of it. It's been around for so long. I want a new word to represent haters. But
Yeah.
anyway, so what are you thinking in terms of conclusion? If somebody, if we wanted to give somebody a couple of lines of advice when they think of creating art in a world full of people creating art, what do we tell them?
I think the biggest takeaway for it for me is if you want to make art, do it because yeah, other people are doing it, but nobody does it like you do.
Okay, people are doing. No one is doing. Okay, so I love that. I love that. That's such a beautiful way to address that sort of imposter syndrome of everybody's doing it. I do you think we can turn it into an alliteration? Let's see if we can. No, that's so many words.
Yeah, it's a lot of words.
All right.
Um, maybe it's like
So, um,
make make art like you make art.
oh, I like that. That's
It's
catchy.
it's a little quippier. It's not alliteration, but it's shorter
It
and
like
same
rolls
vibe.
off the tongue. It's like it's got the spice to it that we're looking for. A little bit of sriracha. Let's see here. Okay. Okay. So, uh, oh man, I can't use that 2 weeks in a row. I put a last week's conclusion included "You're more powerful than you think," and it was like really like empowering. And I think I think what what I love the sriracha, but I want something to like what's the word? Inspire.
Yeah.
You know, I to embolden. So I want to include. Oh shit! Did I just? Can I control Z it? No. What was the spicy sriracha phrase that you said that I didn't finish typing because I'm a silly goose?
Uh, make art like you make art,
Okay. You. Okay.
and a
So
big like underline under the U. It's like the way you make art.
you make art create. Okay. So
How do
the
we
in
make
essence
that
that's
bigger?
create authentically.
Yeah.
And I could put a comma, and then now let's find a way to jazz up whoever's reading it. So create authentically. Oh, here we go. Your mind is beautiful.
Yeah.
Does anybody else reference Jim Carrey when trying to remember how to spell beautiful?
All the
Be
time.
beautiful.
That movie just shaped my childhood sense of humor, and
So
that's probably a
much,
problem.
so much. How many times have you been in the left lane on the highway? and everybody got out of your way. And I don't remember what does Jim Carrey say when he moves traffic out of the way. There's a phrase in do you know what I'm talking about? What's the name? Help me.
Oh, I
What's the
don't
name of the movie? Help me
remember.
with the name of the movie. I forgot that too.
Is it Bruce Almighty?
Yes, it is. Thank you, Bruce Almighty. Okay, and then hold on. Let me full screen this motherfucker. I know that this is an aside. And then we're gonna do Ferrari scene. Uh,
We gotta.
oh, it's not a Ferrari. Excuse me. Oh yeah. I think Torgoth is right. Holy
All
shit,
these
that's loud.
horses and no room to gallop. That's delightful.
It was probably gonna get us DMCA'd, but whatever. I'll record it.
It's
It's
fine.
for the pursuit of knowledge. Good grief, is that what I'm driving? Why is it all laggy? That's alright. We'll fucking deal with it. Good grief, is that a Pinto? What is that?
Whoa, nice car, man. Yeah.
We're getting there. It's fine.
I guess, yeah.
God, this is such a good movie.
Well, and this movie really taught me a lot about how powerful we are and some sort of responsibility, right? Be careful what you wish for.
Well, so yeah,
All this
speaking about
horsepower,
manifestation.
no room to gallop. That's what he says. Like, oh wait, that's what it is. So every time somebody gets the fuck out of my way in the left lane, I say, "Hi ho, Silver, away!" And then I do the jaw thing, away. Yeah, no, that's a beautiful fucking movie. Oh man, it's a good thing I did the full screen before I switched scenes because my screen capture would have caught. I'm a huge fan. Okay, a lot of people are gonna judge me for this, but I'm gonna say it anyway. I'm a huge fan of artistic nudity, right? Like creative camera angles, specifically as it relates to really colorful tattoos and like
Yeah.
lighting, blows my mind. So there's just a butt on my screen is the really what I was trying to say. So it's a good thing that I full screened before I nixed the screen capture on the Chrome there. So to digress here, how do you feel? Do you feel like that encapsulates enough of what you contributed when we say create authentically? Your mind is beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's this a different way of saying basically the same thing I said,
it's
where it's
true.
like you're the one who like it's your mind. You make cool things. Go ahead.
Yeah,
It's great.
yeah. What and which is the whole point of what I'm trying to say, but in a sentence. So awesome. Well, I definitely appreciate your contribution to the thought project that was, should I create art? Well, everybody else is making art. And the answer is yes. And emphatically
Yes,
yes.
absolutely.
And it
Yeah.
is, please do the thing. I'm begging you. I want to see it. Yes, do the thing. So that's a beautiful segue into the art that you're creating,
Yeah.
specifically that I consume, which is the dice that binds us. And we have like talked about it quite a bit during the episode, and we talked about it quite a bit during the pre-show. But I have so much to talk about there. But I do have specific questions too related to like actually creating that content.
Mhm.
So tell us a little bit more about the dice that binds us.
Yeah, so Dice of Bandits started
Is it
as
bind or
just a
binds?
D&D campaign. Brain stopped working. Holy crap. That we started when everyone went into lockdown and we
Okay.
were just all bored and Alex reached out and got a lot of friends. And then we started making a cool story. And Alex is someone who wants to be a content creator or like a D&D creator. So we all kind of went, yeah, this seems cool. And all of us were on board. And we started recording it and putting it on YouTube because Twitch is scary to play D&D live on.
It's
It's a
true.
lot of work.
It is. It's not easy.
Yeah. Um, so we just started recording our like Zoom screen as we had sessions and just kind of going through it and then made kind of like a heavier story or like a more thorough story around
Congratulations.
it and now we're just a bunch of nerds putting our D&D story out on the internet and you might see all of us cry cuz that's what D&D does.
Well, yeah. Well, and like we talked about earlier, one of the episodes, Ian, Departos. I will say the where you added the map and you spelt everybody's name at the bottom. I have definitely in the OneNote that I told you about earlier. Specifically, I took a screen snip of where you spelt everybody's names just so that when I'm talking to Rob or somebody else about the campaign, I spell people's names right. So thank you for doing that. It's somebody who like really like that meant a lot that you made sure to include, and the fact that you can see not only everybody's face but everybody's roles in roll
Hmm.
20. That I know this is unsolicited, so I'm sorry, I'm just going to gush for a little bit, but like that's so awesome because when y'all roll on roll 20 and it's full screen, we kind of get a sense of what's going on because we can see people's facial reactions, especially
Hmm.
as everybody's looking at roll 20. But the when you can see the roll too, like my heart does to say yes or no. Like I was making breakfast and somebody, the DM inspiration. I love how y'all are using DM inspiration. And there's been times where someone's like, I want to use a point of DM inspiration to make so and so, and I'll like hold the spatula, and be like, yes, yes, that's
Like we
exactly,
gotta, we
exactly.
gotta.
It's fine, Fang. I'm sorry to yell. I'm sorry, but yes. So this is really awesome. I'm really glad that you do this. And it was really awesome that y'all that y'all are like so what's the word I'm looking for, engrossed in the campaign, ingrained, intertwined, invested interpersonally.
We care so much about
Yes,
our silly D&D
yes, but
characters.
also that you're doing it because your friend said, "Hey, I want to create."
Hmm.
And what I will say is I couldn't think of a better way to not only showcase Alex's like professional quality DM skills, cuz I've consumed a lot of DM or excuse me, like we talked about D&D content as of you, and Alex is up there in terms of like I would pay Alex money to run a campaign.
And
Um
this is basically his free voice acting demo. So it's like you get
exactly.
to hear all the weird voices he does and all the weird accents. And that's what
Exactly.
he wants to do with his life. So it's a great place to practice and put it out in the world.
Exactly, and to kind of show folks what he's capable of, and to get new ideas of what to practice. But also, I wanted to point out a special hat tip to not only you but the rest of your friends group for hearing him express that and you saying, "Okay, let's do the fucking thing." You specifically have taken it yet a further step by doing the art, by doing the editing. Like that's really fucking incredible of you.
Yeah, I joke with Alex that he and I probably put equal amount of work into this campaign because he does all the, campaign DM stuff, and I bash my head against a keyboard for several hours trying to figure out how to edit the episode into something reasonable.
Right, right. And the fact that y'all are able to do so and create such a wonderful show, it makes for a very very happy bow. Like you said, if anything, like clearly you're getting the views as we see here in front of us, right? Like 18 is not nothing, and
Yeah, it's not bad for like halfway through.
exactly. And I do try to leave some comments where I can, but I often forget about the interaction parts of YouTube. And I do realize that it helps a lot. So as I remember, like we talked about with the disabilities episode, as I remember, I'll try to do the things that I can do to help. Sorry, excuse the plane. But yeah, no, the what y'all create is incredible, and I have such a great time consuming it as a viewer. So that kind of did answer the question why you do the thing. That's really like
Hmm.
not only did we talk about the thing, but we talk about why you did the thing. That was a beautiful like kind of natural segue. So what are y'all kind of hoping to achieve? Is there like an end goal, like a greater end goal? What are some of the kind of like dare to dream kind of goals that we have?
There is there's a tiny part of me, and I know Alex has the same dream, that I would love to become a very popular D&D YouTuber to the point of being able to be invited on the big shows like Dimension 20 or Critical
Oh,
Role.
that'd be cool, wouldn't it?
I would I would die
Yeah,
if that was like a thing that could happen. Like that's a big lofty maybe someday. But the whole point of this campaign is it's going to be most of our first time playing a full through level 20 campaign. So on the micro level, we want to get through all the way through level 20 a full story campaign and get through that and maybe get kind of popular and have people who like our stuff along the way.
there
That
you
would
go.
be amazing.
Okay, cool. I will say I found that mode of content creation of hey, like we talked about like the literally the last already almost 2 hours
Mhm.
was, hey, let's create the thing, and if other people enjoy the thing, fucking great. But I would also love to see y'all go fucking huge, right? Like I can't wait until the day where, and I think it's important to exist that it's a non-zero chance that something like that will happen, especially with, excuse me, especially with the quality of content that y'all are putting out from my subjective and clearly subjective standpoint. But I I think it will be really awesome when someone's like, "Hey, have you ever seen the dice that bind us?" And I'll be like, "Yeah, yeah, I have. I'm so
I've
glad
been
that you
watching
asked."
from the beginning.
I
I
I,
know those
I
people.
probably won't drop that I've been watching from the beginning flex because it feels a little gatekeepery to me, right? But maybe if it comes up in conversation, like, "Oh, how long have you been watching that?" Oh, let me tell you. But yeah, no, it's I can't fucking wait, and I definitely think that it's awesome that y'all have that. At least you specifically in this case, like we talked about, y'all have that goal, because I also have that goal, like that want for y'all. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? That would be really cool. And selfishly, it would be really cool to say I know famous people. So,
Yeah,
uh,
that's the dream of like I know these famous D&D YouTubers. Look at how cool my friends are.
right, right, right. So to that effect, what are kind of some things that you? Oh, and I before we dig into this, let me ask this. So I know that we started a little bit late. That's my
Mhm.
bad. But I also know that I asked for 2 hours of your time. And so do you want to go over a little bit while we finish talking about your content, or do you have somewhere to be? Do you want to cut it off at like 1ish?
No, I'm good to go a little bit over.
Okay, good, because I have a couple more questions I want to ask about
Sounds
your
great.
content. So, cool. So in doing this, this being the dice that bind us, in any format that fits you, what are some things that you've, I guess, learned? Specifically, if you're willing to share, what are some things that you've tried and failed that you've learned from that have changed the way that you do things, specifically as it relates to this content creation?
Oh, yeah. So this was my first, like we talked about it a little bit. I couldn't remember if it was on or off stream. This was basically my first foray into video editing in any capacity. Besides, like I have a couple of unlisted AMVs on YouTube in like from 2009,
Okay. I have a couple
that
unlisted
are,
ones too that I'm just like, nope.
it's like those are for me and the
Ah,
few people I share choose to share it with.
yeah.
But it's like I learned so much in video editing. There was a chunk of time where we tried to do separate voice tracks, and like I ran into a million and one different issues of trying to get them all synced up and
Oh,
lined up,
damn.
because Zoom likes to cut out if people aren't talking, it'll just cut
Ah,
out that
okay.
chunk of audio.
Okay.
Um, so that's fun. But no, it's just like bashing my head against a wall and kind of coming out victorious in the end. But there was one episode. It's the one where Tumult has his little aside. I don't remember what episode that is, where I like zoom in on the pair of them. That was the one episode
Oh,
I
right.
tried to
Okay.
do. Everyone had a separate voice track. It took me literally 6 hours to edit,
Ooh.
when normally it takes me maybe 50% longer than the actual episode because I have to
Okay.
watch all of it and then go back a
Right.
little bit.
And then cut out. Well, yeah, right.
Yeah. So that took me like 6 hours to do, and I was like, "This is probably one of my best edited videos ever. I'm never fucking doing that again."
Well, you know what's going to be hilarious, and the more that you do this, they'll probably run into another episode in the future where you want to do something like that, and instead of
Hmm.
it taking 6 hours, you're probably, I assume, going to remember all of the shit that made it last 6 hours, and then it's
Yeah.
going to be like 5.5 hours or 5 hours or 4.5 hours. And then you're like, man, I know I said I'm never going to do this again, but it would be really cool, like
Yeah, it would
compelled
be
by the
cool if
content, right?
this worked.
Yeah,
Well, and it's like I think it would help too if I eventually put money towards like video editing software, because right
fair.
now I use a thing called OpenShot,
Okay, I
which
use
is good.
Lightworks.
Like,
It's the same deal. It's good, but it's free.
yeah, it's like it's functional. It works fine. It lets me do a few different tracks. Everything works out. But if I definitely paid money to big Adobe and got like all their stuff, it would probably help me a little bit. But that's
Yeah.
a lot. Or got it on the high seas, I should say.
Well
Is I guess the
worded,
other
Dash.
option.
Well
um,
worded, especially for us Sea of Thieves fans out there. I
yeah,
like that I've been playing a lot of that lately. But yeah, well worded.
it's like how do I say that to not get me in more trouble
There.
on the internet?
More trouble.
Maybe
There's something you're
it's
not
fine.
telling us? Are
Don't
you
worry about it.
okay? Okay. Did you get a strongly worded letter from your ISP?
Not that I know of. If I did, it didn't come to my house.
Yar! Fair. Anyway, sorry to interrupt.
But like if I got like better processors or stuff like that, there's probably some stuff I can figure out because there was another time when I was like, cool, we'll do this, and then we'll just have everyone record their audio separately using like Audacity or something, and then it all came to me, and I got that lovely long-term recording thing, which I'm sure you might have dealt with, of Audacity audio drift, where the
Yes.
audio file is slightly longer than the video file
Right.
because there are different frame rates, and I was like, I can't fix that with the tools I have
Mm-mm.
currently. If I spend money, maybe I can,
There
but
are
nope, I
auto
guess we're
tools,
not
yeah.
doing that.
Right, right, right. And one that I think that that's something we didn't really highlight before in terms of content creation, broadly speaking. But specifically speaking, I think it's really awesome that one of the obstacles it sounds like that I'm observing here is that there is a software obstacle sometimes with some of the stuff that you want to create, but yet
Mhm.
you still find ways to make the content that you want to create, even if it's not what you originally envisioned, or if it's something a little bit different, or it took a lot more effort than you originally thought. Like you're still doing it, and that's
Yeah.
really fucking cool. That like spits in the face of the obstacle that we talked about earlier, which is folks having all of these ideas but waiting for that one thing to get going. You know what I mean?
Well, and it goes off of that finish not perfect as well. It was
Right,
like, yeah, I can make
right,
this a lot better, but it's done and it's fine. And people aren't gonna like if people complain, well, it's the best I can do as someone
exactly.
who works 40
Oh,
hours a week and has no video editing training.
exactly.
That's another goal. I would like to be monetized enough that we can pay an editor.
That would
So
be
I don't
that's the
have to do
fucking
it
dream.
anymore.
That's the fucking dream.
Or pay me. That's also fine.
Yeah, no shit. So, because I mean, you could be the paid editor, right? Like, yeah, no, if I had the money, and what it, I will say, I do have the goal of making this a popular thing. So, to that effect, when I get to that point,
Yeah.
I will be hiring an editor. Absolutely, I will. Just because, like, sure, it feels empowering to not know something and then Google the thing and then do the thing and then get better at the thing. Like that feels cool, but also I don't want to do that. I'm lazy.
Yeah, but
Uh,
also my dream job isn't being a video editor,
right,
and for some people, it is. So if they want to figure out, awesome,
right,
and I'm figuring out because I have to, not
exactly.
necessarily because I want to.
Well, and at that point, you're like, hey, I'm doing the thing that I love, and you could do the thing that you love, but also I'll pay you to do it. So,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Well, and it's the same thing like when the channel hits huge and I need mods to help keep chat in line, right? Like, you bet your ass that I'm not going to ask somebody to be like a mod on a chat zooming by that fast unless I'm going to pay them
yeah.
some money, right? Well, and something I didn't touch on earlier that I wanted to come back to that you kind of touched on was
Mhm.
when somebody criticizes your art and you say that you did the best that you could at the time. I think there's something to be said about looking back at your art. I guess this lends to two things when it comes to the imposter syndrome that we talked about earlier too, in that when you look at your art and you notice things that you could have done better to make it more perfect in your opinion, I think that that's a representation of growth, and as an artist, specifically with where you were when you created that art to where you are right now. Like it's an
Yeah,
immediate example of the ways that you've improved. And depending on how long ago you put out that art, in a very short amount of time, and it's something to instead of being something to lament, oh, I should have done this piece better, specifically as it relates a little jab to your tattoo, uh, the
hmm
friend who wants a tattoo. Like, it can also be a reminder of the lessons that you learned there, to take forward with you in the things that you're creating. I guess to slightly pressure you into creating a tattoo for your friend.
sure I will at some
Maybe
point.
I'm
Don't pressure me
selfish,
enough.
right? Right? Maybe I'm selfishly trying to create a precedent here. But the point is that I think it's really really fucking cool. I guess it's the long story short there. But I would also pay an editor here is what I'm also getting at, because I like we talked about earlier. I have three now soon to be four unedited videos that are just sitting there, and
It's hard.
it
It's
is
hard when it's multiple hours.
it
Like we
is
recorded we have a super episode because we recorded like we're gonna have 3 episodes of Combat coming out here shortly, just based on the way
Sweet.
things are. And we recorded for 6 hours because we did one long
Whew.
combat,
Yeah.
and then went, we're good, and we recorded another one. And I went, this is gonna be so much, but it's gonna be really cool. But this is a very long episode that I would like off my computer now,
Yes.
please.
What? You know what? Also, I didn't expect the resource requirement involved with editing videos. Like, good God, what do you mean 2 hours is 23 gigs? Are you fucking high? And obviously, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but and then trying to fucking upload that into that's another thing where having more expensive and fancier video editing software and hardware like processors and memory makes a big difference. You know, that's where like if somebody has the professional studio editing stuff already, you can be like, here's this 20 gig version of raw video, please make it beautiful, with all of your tools and resources.
Well, like with my computer, I have like a tiny, it's not tiny, but I have like a 250 gig solid state hard drive, and that's
Nice.
it. And
Yeah.
so at any given
Wow,
point I
holy
have
shit.
between 20 to like 10 to 20 gigs of free space on my
Oof.
computer at any given point because of just all the
Oof.
recorded video. And it's like, I should probably get a new hard drive.
Yeah, no shit. Well, what we need is a dice that bind us. I've been saying binds, by the way, but it's bind for any of you who are
Yes.
also confused. Amazon wish list that includes a external hard drive, like 20
Yeah.
gigs or something.
Like a
Then we,
computer hard drive. We have an external one, so I'll put all the finished videos on an external one thanks
oh,
to
fair,
Rob.
safe.
But maybe also put out like, hey, let's get all like nice lav mics and good
Yeah.
like lighting for like
Oh
because we're
shit.
fine, but it's hard. It's hard. Like these headsets are okay, but then we have some people who are like using their webcam mic and other
Sure.
people who have like nice Yetis, and it's like
Right.
it'd be cool if we were consistent.
Well, thank you for sharing that with me because I'm in the industry. So I did see a mic on TikTok that I think I have saved. So I'll go back and look if you're interested. But it's like a $40 USB mic that sounds like a studio mic. So
Wow.
like maybe we could put that on the Amazon wish list and get like 7 of those and just hand them out to everybody. It's a USB mic, and they're like, "Well, I'm on my phone," or "Here's the USB-C converter. Have fun." Like it's supposed to. They created it for like TikTokers and people who are doing
That's
like Instagram
awesome.
reels and
That's
shit.
that's
Yeah.
a good thing to know. That's much more affordable than the like 80, 90, two hundred
Right.
dollar mics.
Right. Well, and the one that I have now, I bought it a few years ago, and it works fine. But I bought an Audio Technica USB mic, and I fucking sold my first Xbox One for this thing. I was like traded it into GameStop on some special trade-in deal, and got like $200 store credit, got like $200 worth of Amazon gift cards, and then bought an audio setup. Right.
Like, let's go.
Right. Right. So yeah. Oh, and it. So that is a kind of a really nice natural segue into the last thing I wanted to ask you in regards to the content that you're creating is aside from you're gonna have a little bit of a trickier time than normally when I ask this question because I ask this question to anybody else who I invite on the show who's like an artist or content creator, but none of them have come on during an episode actually talking about art and then talking about their art. So you're gonna face a unique challenge here without hitting our topic, our conclusion earlier, which was create authentically.
Hmm.
What would be your biggest tip, or few tips if you have several, for folks who are who are trying to create? And I'll add one more caveat because I feel like you can handle the challenge here. You're a very capable human. We also can't say just do it, just start creating art.
Oh, that was gonna be my excuse.
I know,
Shit.
motherfucker. Nice try.
Um, jeez. How dare you, Bo? um, I think like the biggest thing is if you're having fun, it's not just do it, but it's like keep doing things that you enjoy, regardless of what other people think.
Okay. Uh,
Like
So
if
like
you
persevere, like persist, like push through, do what makes you happy kind of thing.
Yeah, like do what makes you happy, try new things. Like I just recently got into cross stitch because it was a hobby that I was
Okay.
like, I kind of want to do this. And then I got it and it made perfect sense to my brain immediately. And I was like, this is a blast. I would have never done this before, but it's great.
Yeah.
So it's like try the things. And if you want to try a thing and just like keep creating. Because if you think it's bad now, it's gonna get better if you keep doing it.
Fair, fair. Well, and that's an age old adage too, which is anything worth doing is worth doing poorly.
Yeah.
It's very uncommon that a person picks something up and is good at it right away. Like that doesn't happen very often. So, have the courage to create. And also, it sounds like you're saying, okay, you know what? I'll let you through with that one, because it's not just do the thing, it is do what makes you feel good inside. Like,
Yeah.
not, and I'm gonna go ahead and boldly bridge that over to make sure that when you have an idea to do the thing, that you have the courage to do the thing, even though we know most folks, at least if they're in our generation, based on what we talked about earlier, are going to relentlessly criticize themselves and their art afterwards. Just fucking do it anyway.
Mhm.
That's a really good fucking tip. That is a really good
But
tip.
and the other side of that coin is if you don't like doing it, stop.
There you
Like,
go.
do what you like doing,
But
but
don't
also
burn
if you
yourself
try
out.
it and it's not fun anymore, you can take a break or you can stop entirely. If you do this thing and you're like, actually, I fucking hate doing this thing, stop it. No one's making you. And if they are, throw them out the window, metaphorically.
There you go. Well, that's a good advice. So let me ask you this. This is a content creator's conundrum that I've had the privilege of running into. What happens when you do realize a little bit of your dream, like you do get a following or you do build a bit of a community, and then the thing that you're creating that builds and maintains that community doesn't bring you joy anymore?
That's hard, but I think it you have the permission to stop. Like,
The same is true as what you're saying.
yeah, it's like the same is true. And if they are, f- and of course, there's the whole like I don't remember the exact term, but the like fake relationships you get with content creators, like that sort of thing.
Okay.
But if they care about you as a creator, they're gonna want you to make the things you want to do, like you
That's a
want
good
to.
fucking point. They're going to want to see you in your element. They're going to want to see you happy and authentic. The people who are your true fans just want to see you. They don't. It's not as much about what you create. Well, and now that you say that out loud, I need there's a special hat tip to be said to folks who do stick with the content creator regardless, or artist regardless of the style of art or content that they're creating. They just want to be there for that person. There's many people in the channel right now who are of that element for me, and
Hmm.
the amount of appreciation for those sorts of would the word be fans or um,
Supporters, if that feels less weird.
oh, I got it, community members,
There you go.
uh, is not stated enough how much that kind of support is appreciated. At least I feel like I will never be able to state enough how much that means. At least without gushing about it, which I've learned in the Twitch world. Like it's important to show appreciation without overdoing appreciation, because then people, it's not fun to watch anymore. And I mean, I've done that too. I've popped into people's stream and I'll drop a sub and people gush 5 minutes about how they're excited about the sub. It's like, man, listen, I'm really glad that made your day, but can I see you play the fucking game now?
It's like keep
Uh,
doing the thing you're doing.
right.
Well, it's like the biggest example for me, and this is a recent one, is very popular content creator, the creator of the series Unraveled, Brian David Gilbert,
Okay.
recently quit Polygon just
Okay.
because
Oh
he
yeah,
wanted
that's
to
big news.
move on.
Okay.
And like he did a full podcast interview or something where he's like, I'm probably not going to make anything like Unraveled ever again, but I'm fortunate to have a fan base who's just interested in seeing what I'm creating.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
the biggest thing. He's like, I'm not doing that anymore because it's not fun for me, but I'm going to be doing new stuff and I have enough people who are going to be interested in that it doesn't matter if I lose the people who don't.
That's really what a well, and obviously it's a privilege to be able to say that, but like what a good feeling too, and it's a great coffee filter for the folks, like to have to kind of build that community, right, is to
Hmm.
have a fan base, in his case, of folks who are going to be of that mindset. Like what a good way to just jump to the people who just to those people by making that transition, which takes its
Yeah.
own level of courage. Yeah, that's cool. Well, and Habanero, H Blacklung in chat said it best: in art, it's hard to know where the edge is unless you go over.
It's true.
I run into that mental image quite a bit, especially when I'm creating content. The way I like to visualize encountering that obstacle. You remember in the first Avengers when like Hawkeye jumps off the fucking building and the only arrow he has left is like the grappling hook arrow. That's what
Yeah.
shows up in my mind every time. I'm like, all right, well, like fuck it, let's do it. That's the biggest way I overcome my ADHD, get distracted by everything. I don't want to get up and do the dishes. I'm gonna scroll on TikTok on the couch for 3 hours instead. It's just like
Hmm.
jump off the building, shoot the arrow, do the dishes. Good.
It's
Well
like you'll
said.
catch yourself somehow, and if not, it'll be fine.
You'll be dead and you won't have to worry about it. It's fine.
Yeah.
Dead people don't have feelings. So we assume. Well, that was awesome. That was really fun. I'm gonna ask you a question I ask everybody. I love asking this question. How was your time on the show? Was that how did the 2 hours go by, relatively speaking, for you?
Oh, it went super quick. I glanced over. I was like, "Oh, it's already 12:30. Okay."
Yeah.
No, it's fun. I think I also have the unique thing of like I talk to my friends about all this stuff all the time, so it's not super abnormal,
Yeah.
but it's also weird talking to someone who's like like legit fan of my work. So
Yeah.
it's like a weird energy to be like, this is my friend, but they also just like want to scream about this thing that I
Just
also
gush.
want to scream about, and that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I hope it. One thing that I was, I guess, wary of was I didn't want it to seem like I was just blowing smoke up your ass, right? Because I
No.
really do, and I'm glad that it doesn't feel that way because I really do enjoy the dice that bind us, and I have, like, I'm emotionally invested in the story. Don't let the fact that I'm an episode behind detract from that statement, right? Like, it's really fun, and I enjoy the characters, and like, I ebb and flow with the characters in terms of regard over certain characters or certain characters' actions, and like, it's cool. It is a happy coincidence that it also happens to be created by my friends because
Yeah.
I can objectively say that if I didn't know who the fuck you people were, I would still. What do you mean, you people? I would still enjoy the dice that bind us. So,
Well, that's good. And I do not blame people for being behind, considering the episodes are between an hour and a half and 2.5 hours long each.
well,
Like, that's a lot of time to dedicate.
yeah, and I'm just gonna blame y'all directly here by saying you're making content that's so engaging that I can't consume it passively. So when I'm fucking slammed, I can't like just watch it because like and let's be honest, I can't watch it in the background of my other vices like World of Warcraft because I need to
Hmm.
focus on what I'm doing. But I do have an herb farming session, which is not a moniker for weed. It means I'm literally gonna go pick flowers at World of Warcraft, and that's my favorite time to consume active content like books or podcasts or shows. So I will catch up, but yeah,
There we
I'm
go.
really glad that time flew by for you. By the theory of relativity, I'm gonna just accept that compliment of you had a good time because time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah.
I definitely would love to have you back on in the future if you want to come back on. I hope that I gave you enough room to talk. That's something I've been working on, is not interrupting folks and not being as much of a wordy bitch. But
Hey, you're good. I shouted my pieces when I need to.
hell yeah, when it worked too, I definitely appreciate the boldness there. It helps me run through it. So all right, Dash. Well, I will. Anything you want to add? Anything you want to jump in and say? Any shout outs you want to throw out there?
Not that I can think of. I guess if you haven't and you want to watch our YouTube show and enjoy my art, I guess this by proxy through that YouTube show.
Or else. I'm going to link it one more time in chat. Dash, thank you so much for coming on the show. I
Thank you.
appreciate your flexibility today and grace, especially as I overslept as I do sometimes. So, and we will see you the next time you come on the show.
Sounds good.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Disconnect call. Oh, and now all you see is Discord. Well, everybody, that was a fantastic time. I will say it every week, have said it every week. Never ceases to amaze me how quickly time flies when I'm having fun talking to my friends. One of my big shout out to Dash and the Dice That Bind Us over on YouTube. Amazing show. I wasn't gushing for no reason. Like I was telling them, I absolutely appreciate the content that those folks and their group have to create. It's wonderful D&D. If y'all haven't watched it yet, it's definitely worth it. And that's obviously subjective, but I'm going to forcefully tell it to you. So go over there, give it a try. Big shout out to those of you who hung out in chat. I definitely appreciate it. Y'all are here every week. It means a lot to me to see you every week. It's really, really fucking awesome that y'all are willing to stop by and say hi and spend this time with me. I appreciate y'all that showed up even though I was a little bit late. Nobody tell Jess because we gave her a lot of shit that one time she was late, so it's going to put us on even ground. Don't worry, I'll tell Jess because it's funny. But yeah, it's awesome that y'all operate with enough grace and still come even when I'm late, so it's really fucking fun. Stay tuned this evening, probably I would say around 7 p.m. because I have to go pick up my groceries and then cook and then eat. But around 7 p.m., come back. I think I'm going to stream some World of Warcraft arenas tonight. I know we played some PvP in Guild Wars 2. I'm going to do some PvP in WoW. We're going to learn the arena in WoW. Even though I've spent a little bit of time in there, I'm just now starting to get the swing of things and how things work. If you are here for strictly Sunday tea, make sure you come back for next week's episode. We have a pretty hot take. We're going to, talk about how video games or games are supposed to be fun. Okay, hot take. Games are supposed to be fun. We're going to talk about how sometimes games aren't fun, but are sometimes popular anyway. And I'm looking at you, Among Us. I feel some type of way about Among Us. It's a geniusly created game that I feel like really plays on human tribalism to garner a following, and I don't like how easy it is for people to manipulate each other in that game. I feel like it allows people to flex some muscles and use some weapons that are okay in that context, but generally speaking, maybe set precedents that aren't quite cool outside of life. So I don't know about y'all, but I've definitely walked away from that game thinking, holy shit, am I even real? But maybe that's a me problem. Find out next week on Sunday Tea with Bowborne and the Archers. I'm having a really good time spending time in my other content creators, my channels, especially when they reference the show. Sometimes people say Tea with Bowborne or Sunday with Bow, or it is Sunday Tea with Bowborne and the Archers. Okay? It's a us thing. And if you get it wrong, that's okay. The important part is, it's all kind of important. Well, I guess probably not tea. Tea is probably not important because we're drinking coffee, right? Fun is for losers. Pain is the cleanser. That's definitely the approach we're taking to Sea of Thieves. At least I'm taking to Sea of Thieves. By the way, I'm having a lot of fun with that game. What are you talking about, Torgoth? Among Us. But yeah, no, I'm going to wrap it up. I think we had a great episode today. The conclusion was absolutely lovely. I love the conclusion of, again, to remind you all, create authentically. Your mind is beautiful. I think that we're going to call it a day. I've had an absolute wonderful afternoon, morning into afternoon hanging out with y'all. If you guys choose to come back for the World of Warcraft a little bit later, I will see you then. If you choose not to, then I will see you next week on Sunday Tea. I really do enjoy the fact that we've been ending the episodes like mid-sentence. It has made watching the VODs and the recordings after pretty fun, especially like if it feels like I'm going to say something really enticing. You know, like that one time that we were talking about just